Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today's video we're going to be doing another deck profile for a new Chilling Rain deck, and that's going to be Dracozolt VMAX. This is a new VMAX that will be releasing in Chilling Rain, and I definitely think it has more potential than people are giving it credit for. I think it's definitely not a bad card. It's probably not going to be the best deck in the game, but it's definitely not a bad card, so we're going to be covering it today. We're just going to start off with the Dracozolt VMAX here. We have 330 HP, which is, it's nice that we have that 10 extra HP. We will get there in a minute. But it has an attack for wasn't lightning energy, trap, spark. It does 60 damage. And during your opponent's next turn, if it's damaged by an attack, then you put 12 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon, which means that if you hit into your opponent's item Pokemon and that Pokemon then attacks into you, that means you can effectively do 180 damage from one energy. But we also have a second attack here at max impact, which for lightning 3 colorless deals 200 damage. That is too expensive for us to use because we don't have that much acceleration. We're only really attacking for 1 lightning energy. We're not going to need that much acceleration. So that is how our deck works. And it's nice that we have that extra 10 HP because we're going to want to heal so we can repeatedly spam this trap spark. And yeah, so we have a 4-4 line of the VMAX in this deck. And I'll get to what the V does in a second. So here we have the 4 VMAXs, and we also have 4 of the Vs. Now the V here also has a pretty interesting attack for 1 lightning energy. Rumble Beak, it deals 30 damage, and during opponent's next turn, energy can't be attached from their hand to the defending Pokemon, which means they're going to have to switch out of the active if they want to attach energy from their hand to their active Pokemon. So this can be nice later in the game, comboed with a Risha stamp. So Rumblebeak is also not a bad attack. We also have a second attack here, Mountain Swing, which is 180, and you discard the top 3 cards of your deck. It's okay. It's obviously going to be a lot more affordable to use than Max Impact, but this card is decent. So usually we're only going to be using the Rumblebeak attack, though. So we have 4 copies of the V and 4 copies of the VMAX, so you can get them out as consistently as possible. We're playing a Greens engine, which means that we're going to want to be able to use our greens for other things that isn't our Pokemon. So next we have 1 copy of the new Tapu Koko V from Battle Styles, and that says this guy with Spiral Thunder deals 20 damage, and it does 40 more damage for each energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon, and it has an attack for 1 lightning that does 40 damage, but mainly this guy is here for the second attack, Spiral Thunder, and this guy can be really useful against decks with unlimited damage outputs, things like Centiskorch, things like Shadow Rider Calyrex, which is probably going to be a very, very good deck in the upcoming metagame. This deck is really based around healing, so decks that have unlimited damage outputs like Centiskorch, like Calyrex, you're going to struggle against, and this Tapu Koko can really help with those matchups, being able to take a huge knockout for only 3 energy, which is possible. It is viable to get 3 energy because we play 1 top copy of Tapu Koko Prism Star as well. So I really like this Tapu Koko V in here. I think it is a decent option for beating things like Centiskorch and Calyrex. Moving on to our supporters, these are the only Pokemon we have because we're running a Greens engine, so we're playing 4 copies of Greens Exploration. So Greens, it's our main engine. We're on run 4. We want to hit them as often as we can off of Pokegear, so we have access to them as often as we can. So we're running 4 copies, and since our main wing con is healing a whole lot with Cheryl, we're playing our 3 copies of Cheryl as well, so we can heal. And this is because, if you hit your opponent's active with that Trap Spark, and then they hit you, you can play Cheryl. So you hit them for 60 for 1 energy, they hit you, and then they take 120 damage. That's effectively 180 damage for 1 energy. Then you play Cheryl, and you remove all the damage they just did, and since it's only 1 energy, it means you can use the attack again, which means that you can make your opponents take 120 damage while they're not doing anything to you. So it's very, very powerful strategy, I think. So we're running 3 copies of Cheryl because it's our main part of our deck. We have 2 copies of Smithy and Caitlin because we want to be able to get back those Cheryls, and just being able to draw 3 is nice. We have 2 copies of Boss's Orders because every single deck has to play Gust options so you can like clean up KOs. One copy of Team Yell Grunt. This is because it pairs nicely with our Dracozolt V's first attack and other energy disruption item cards that we play. And one copy of Guzman Hala to help us search out everything in one go. We can search out an air balloon, a cat spell, and a speed lighting energy all at once, or something like that with Guzman Hala. So Guzman Hala is definitely very nice. One copy of Chaotic Swell, because there's really no other stadiums we're going to play. And I'm actually going to talk about Expanded here for a little bit. I don't usually talk about Expanded. That's because I don't really have as much interest in the format as I do in the Standard. But in Expanded, this deck is probably extra powerful, because what you can do is you can use Ninetales with Barrier Shine to prevent your Thunder Mountain from going out of play, and then you can use Jawlock, I think it is. What is it? It's called Trap Spark. You use Trap Spark for free, and then spam things like Acerola and spam things like Cheryl. So it's probably a lot better in Expanded, because we also have Tapu Lele to search out that Cheryl. This deck is definitely decent in Expanded too. So in Expanded, we can run Thunder Mountain, but in Standard, we don't have that, so we're running Chaotic Swell instead. Next, we have 4 copies of Pokegear 3.0. So we want to be able to hit our Greens Explorations or Cheryls as often as possible. And if we can have to not use a Greens Exploration for our Cheryls, if we can Pokegear into Cheryl instead and use the Greens Exploration to search out more energy or something like that, that can always be nice. So, of course, we're going to be playing 4 copies of Pokegear 2.0. We have a whole bunch of 2 of item cards. We have 2 Quick Balls. Well, normally, I say a deck is not a deck if you don't run 4 Quick Ball. Obviously, a lot of Greens decks, this is especially a lot of Greens decks lately, this has been an exception. Things like Dracozolt, I believe, only runs 1 Quick Ball. There's even been a Luke Metal build that was going around before Battle Styles came out that ran like 2 Quick Ball and a whole bunch of Capture Energies. So only 2 Quick Ball on this list because we are running Greens. We don't need to have maximum Quick Balls so we can get out of Dedenes. We don't need to have maximum Quick Balls so we can get out our Croats, things like that. 2 copies of Reset Stamp, because once again it pairs nicely with our Dracozolt V's first attack and something like a Crushing Hammer or a Team Yell Grunt. We have 2 copies of Energy Spinner, because we're going to keep our flow of energy going. We're always going to be discarding it with Cheryl, which means we're always going to want to be able to have access to it with Greens Exploration. So we play 2 copies of Energy Spinner as a energy card and a trainer card that we can search out with our Greens Exploration to help us get set up more. Our Energy Denial, we're running 4 Energy Denial on cards, 2 Crushing Hammers, and 2 Phantom Blades, so a 2-2 split with the Energy Denial. Cards, obviously, I've been talking a lot how Dracozolt V's first attack, something like a Reset Stamp and a Disruptive Energy item card, can be extremely powerful later in the game. You can buy entire turns to set up. Maybe you need a whole nother turn to get your Dracozolt, or you have energy in a certain situation, and that can be very nice later in the game. Because we want our Dracozolt to stay alive for as long as possible, we run 2 copies of Big Charm. So, because we want to be able to make our Dracozolt as tanky as possible, so our Cheryl will be able to be used effectively more. And now we have a whole bunch of one-of item cards. We have 1 Evolution Incense tells us to search out our evolutions, 1 Pokemon Communication, which can also get out both our evolutions and our basic Pokemon, 1 copy of Switch, because we're not going to need that many switching outs in a game, especially with Pikarom being not as popular. 1 copy of Escape Rope as another switch out, and 1 copy of Air Balloon as another switch out. 1 copy of Pal Pad so we can reuse our supporters, things like Boss, Yell Grunt, and Cheryl. 1 copy of Energy Switch. This helps us pull out a Spiral Thunder out of nowhere. If you don't play the Energy Switch, or you prize the Energy Switch, what you're usually going to have to do is bench your Tapu Koko attached to it, and the next turn go Tapu Koko, attach return, switch it, something like that. But if you have a basic energy on your Dracozolt VMAX from a previous turn, and it's a basic energy, you can energy switch it off onto your Tapu Koko, dance through the Ancients, and attach return, and then you can get off that Spiral Thunder out of nowhere. 1 copy of Energy Retrieval, so we can get back our energy. We also have our Tapu Koko Prism Star to get back our energy. We're not usually going to be that short on energy. We have 1 copy of Tool Scrapper, because it search both greens. Sometimes you're just going to want to be able to get rid of tools, specifically things like Big Parasol, which will make it so that that Trap Spark won't affect them because Trap Spark is an effect of the attack. And we have one copy of Lumberry. I mentioned how Pikarom is not as popular, but it is definitely around. If you run in the Pikarom, you only play 3 switch outs. One of them which doesn't work when you're paralyzed, which means that you're gonna have a very hard time against paralysis or anything that maybe like poison. Excuse me, something like poison and poison alternatives. They're not gonna have to hit you. They're just gonna be able to poison you. And you're gonna take 6 damage counters. And once again, you run low switch outs, you're gonna have a hard time getting out of that poison. So I like Lumberry just for getting out of those special conditions that you don't have many switch outs for. Our energy is just 4 speed lightning energies. There's no reason not to play 4. I suppose Fan of Waves maybe, but you're already gonna be discarding energy with Cheryl. So if anything, they'd be helping you by helping you draw 2 more cards during that game. So 4 copies of speed lightning energy and 6 copies of basic lightning energy. And it's because this stuff, basic lightning energy can be used for Tapu Koko, energy retrieval, energy switch, just a whole bunch of reasons that we have to run our basic energy over just our couple special energies. So yeah, that is going to be the deck profile. Before we go, I'd actually just like to talk a little bit about the matchups because fighting decks obviously seem like a bit of an obstacle for this deck because you're not running weakness guard, and if you even do run weakness guard, then eventually it's gonna be discarded with Cheryl, right? Because Cheryl is a huge part of your strategy, so eventually it's gonna be discarded with Cheryl, which means that you need to have a better out against fighting decks. Now here's the thing: one of the main fighting decks is Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. And Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX is only usually going to do a maximum of 150 damage. Double with weakness, that's 300 damage. You're usually going to have 360 HP because of your 2 copies of Big Charm. This means that effectively, Urshifu is a fine matchup because they're only hitting for 300, and a 300 is not 360. 300 does not equal 330 or something like that. 300 is not a knockout, which means you can heal all of it off no matter what with Cheryl, which is the reason why I think this deck is fine because it doesn't suffer from fighting weak things that maybe like Pikarom does, because all of Pikarom's attackers is going to be under 300 HP, which is going to be very, very bad for them against these things like Urshifu. Like every fighting deck besides like Single Strike Urshifu is going to be knocking you out. Even with Big Charm, Single Strike can't knock you out. So yeah, I think that's just going to be it for today's video. Obviously, I think your one bad matchup is Blacephalon because you can maybe run a Tapu Fini. You can even run maybe 2 Tapu Finis if you're really, really worried about Blacephalon. But Tapu Fini is just gonna, I'm not running it. It's just take Blacephalon as a loss. Blacephalon is a really hard matchup because there's nothing you can do to prevent them. I mean, you run 2 copies of Reset Stamp, but yeah, it's just a little bit of an iffy matchup, especially since you're 2-hit KOing them. It's just that's going to do it for today's video. I'll definitely be picking up my playset of Dracozolt VMAX. I think it's a really cool card, especially paired with Cheryl. It's not a deck that suffers from rotation as much as other decks do. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's video. If you guys liked it, don't forget to leave a like. And if you guys want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. As I do a whole bunch of Pokemon trading card game deck profiles and Pokemon trading card game content in general. That'll be it for today's video, and I will see you guys in the next one.